Hey, what is up, guys? It is Harrison Barron, the Millennial Entrepreneur. Now, I am super fired up for this video, and you're probably wondering, why on earth are you fired up? Well, I just got off the phone with my buddy Cheeto from Cheeto Studios. Go check him out on YouTube. He has a massive channel, and he teaches, well, he doesn't teach, he makes animations. And ultimately, we're talking about, building a course, and I have my courses and things like that. And he was like, well, why do people buy from you and not your competition? Why do people buy from your competition and not you, right? And we started talking about a lot of things, right? And perceived value and what is perceived value and really like all of these kind of like little nuggets that were like in the air. And we really didn't know kind of where it was going to go, right? Because let's think about this for a minute. I used to live over in Bayport, New York, over on Long Island, and there was probably, I would say, 5 restaurants within 15 minutes. Not even 15 minutes, honestly. We could probably go 5, but one of the more expensive restaurants was probably like 15, 20 minutes away. And they all sold cheeseburgers. So, on a Tuesday night, you're hungry and you're like, you know what, let me go get a cheeseburger, right? And you're thinking to yourself, why do I go to either the high-end steakhouse that sells a cheeseburger, right? They all sell cheeseburgers. Let's just take 3 local restaurants in the area. You guys can go look them up if you choose. But there was a restaurant called 5 Points Cafe. I used to work there, right? And their cheeseburgers were about $15 or so. There's another one called Blackbirds, and their cheeseburgers were, 15 to 20 bucks. You have another place called Off the Block, which is a butcher place, and their cheeseburgers were, I don't know, about $20 or so. And then you have a place called Insignia, which is a high-end steakhouse, and their cheeseburgers $25 to $35, somewhere in that range, right? These numbers are not specific to this whole thing, but we're just using this as a reference, right? But why would somebody go to Insignia for their burger, which is $35, versus 5 Points Cafe, which was $15? Or better yet, why would somebody go to 5 Points Cafe, which is less than a mile away from a place called Blackbirds or a place called Off the Block, right? There's these 3 places all within 2 miles of my house. And why would you go to one versus the other? What is perceived value, right? Because you're getting literally that you could get the exact same thing, right? If you wanted just a cheeseburger, that is lettuce, tomatoes, pickles, onions, bread, burger, cheese, cooked however you like, with a side of fries, right? If you really want to live large, sweet potato fries. But why would somebody go to one versus the other, right? And the reason why this came about, and this is going to be a longer one, is if you create a course, right? If you're an expert in something, or you create a product, right? Why would somebody buy from you? What is the value of that, right? When they can get it from somebody else. And the conversation kind of went like, well, would I buy it? And a lot of times, and this is not something I hear just from this, right? I hear this a lot from business owners too, and people that have started, and both people that are super successful and not successful. Would you buy your own product? And more often than not, the answer is 50-50, and you're probably wondering, well, why would most people not buy their own product, right? Well, everybody's different, and you have to make a product that somebody else is going to enjoy. And because you're making it, you're not the target market. So I have a LinkedIn course. I'm in the process of putting out a podcast course if you want to go check that out, harrisonbarron.com. But that's not the point. The point is why would somebody go to my podcasting course, right? And I don't know what price it's going to be yet, versus Pat Flynn's podcasting course, which is $800. Right? And if you break it into payments, it's almost $1,000. So why would somebody come to me for a drastically less price versus Pat Flynn, right? Now, Pat Flynn, I would say, and nothing against Pat, I think Pat's a phenomenal guy with an incredible podcast, but why would somebody go to him? Like, I know he's got proof in the pudding as far as having several thousand, subscribers and things like that. I shouldn't say several, he's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers and a massive podcasting base. But what makes his stuff more valuable, right? Like, I've taken other people's courses with these huge followings, and they're doing nothing different than these people with these little followings that just happen to know the ins and outs of a certain industry or something like that. And it makes you think, what is value, right? And ultimately, what does that customer expect? And I think where this video is going to go is, it's setting the level of expectations, right? So if you go to school, right, you go to med school, You have the expectation of coming out as with a PhD. If you fail to get there, that's partially on you, right? The school typically didn't fail, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of not great things with schools, and that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is you have an expectation, right? Because schools set an expectation. Now, if you went to school, med school, and you came out and became a rocket scientist, right? That value is very different, and your preconceived notions of what you're getting into is very different than what you should have gotten. And that's the biggest problem and solution for most businesses, is because they don't actually understand their value. They don't understand their customer and why their customer is buying from them versus not buying from them. So, my buddy Casey, who owns Dirty Decks, right? I'm wearing his sweatshirt. Why would somebody buy from him as opposed to somebody else? Like, that value that's in there. So there is a bit of history that has to go into it, why somebody would want to buy from you. Do you have a proven track record? Do you know what you're doing? Have you studied? Do you have the right equipment? All of these things come into play. But I think the most important thing is the customer experience and them knowing what they're gonna get. Because you can get this cheeseburger from 5 of these different places, and there's far more than within a 20-minute radius. But why would somebody go to one versus the other? What makes them better? Is it a better burger? But is it a better burger for that person? And that is the key to all of it. Just because you sell cheeseburgers doesn't mean everybody's gonna like your cheeseburger. It's very rare that somebody goes to a restaurant and everybody likes it, right? There's never a time when somebody comes in and says, oh my God, we haven't had a single dissatisfied customer. There's going to be times when customers come in and they just don't love it. It's the best product you can produce, but they don't love it. It's not for them. And that's the biggest problem, is understanding that you don't have a product for every single person. You have a product for either a large percentage of people or a small percentage of people. And ultimately, you can choose how much you want to charge for all these different things, right? So if you teach a course, right, if you take my online course for how to start a podcast, you're gonna learn a lot of stuff. Is it gonna be very different than Pat Flynn's? Probably not. But it's the conceived value of it. So if you think that you're gonna get more value out of Pat Flynn's because he has this tremendous following versus a small podcaster who happens to know what they're doing and wants to create a course, that's up to you to figure out, like, hey, do I want to spend 3, 4, 5x compared to what I could have spent on his stuff? And here's the other thing, like, what kind of value are you going to get out of it? Are you going to get coaching sessions? Are you just getting his course? Like, all these different things come into play. You'd be so surprised. A lot of times, and I hate to say this, but like dollar store quality is usually just as good as, Walmart brand or CVS brand or whatever it is. It's the perceived value versus, the name brand stuff. There's not that much of a difference, right? So it's that value that is instilled in there. It's the thought process. It's why would a customer enjoy one burger versus another burger? And I know this video is kind of all scattered about, but my brain is going 1,000 miles an hour because it really made me think, why would somebody buy from you? Why should somebody buy from you? And why should somebody support you, right? Because as long as you deliver what you told them you were going to deliver, you can't be mad about it. I have a LinkedIn masterclass. I teach LinkedIn. I teach people how to do different things, and I get feedback from it. I just got a great piece of feedback. Hey, could you go into a little more depth on, outreach to these people? Sure, I can absolutely do that, right? But he said everything else in the course, top notch, unbelievable quality, super happy he purchased it, right? Like, that's really rewarding to me. And now I know what I need to go back and do better for the next time, and I can go add those things and do some better stuff in there. But that's the ultimate value of one, having a product that you can change on a regular basis, and this is all products, right? No, we don't use the original iPhone. It's come out over several iterations, making it better and better and better. And that's the same thing with what you do. Your first launch is never gonna be the one that takes the world by storm. It's the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 11th iteration of that course, of that product, of that service that's gonna make the best thing possible, right? You don't want somebody who's never built a house before to build your house. You want somebody who's seasoned, right? But ultimately, if it's the newbie and it takes him a long time, but he knows what he's doing and he gets it done and it's a house that you don't have to worry about, what's the difference between somebody who's a newbie versus somebody with a ton of experience? Now, somebody's gonna say like, oh my God, obviously I want the guy with experience, right? And chances are pretty good that a newbie is not gonna be building a house from scratch. But that's the same thing, right? As long as you get to that end goal, that satisfaction after the burger, after you've paid for that whole process, that's ultimately what makes it valuable. And value is perceived person to person. There's no such thing as like, hey, this is more valuable than this. Value is personally perceived, right? We think gold is valuable because it's finite, but some people don't care about gold. Gold is useless to them. Diamonds are useless to some people, right? I find a lot of value in my computer because I live on it and breathe on it every single day. It's the workhorse of my entire company. So these are things that you have to take into consideration when you're talking about value. I know it sounds wild and it's blowing my mind. The other crazy part is like, why should somebody support you? In my next video, I'm gonna cover Patreon and why Patreon's kind of important and how I helped somebody make thousands of dollars on Patreon by supporting them. My name is Harrison Barron, the Millennial Entrepreneur. If you guys have not already, hit that like button. I hope you guys got value from this, right? This is value. I'm doing my best to give you guys real insight, real feedback, and real thought about what makes one thing different than the other, right? This is value. This is what value you're creating. My value is my YouTube videos and what I do for customers and stuff like that. I hope to see some value down in the comments below. Leave me a comment if you are questioning, the value that you provide versus how much you charge and things like that. I will see you guys next time. Until then,